I'm Heather Welder Russo. I'm Chief of Advancement here at the Witte Museum. We've had a really robust conversation over the past day and a quarter. David Schmidley just now, gosh, I think that totally blew our mind in terms of the wildlife of our state. And what is so exciting about this session, which is inspiring the outdoor adventure, right, with our kids, is that we need to get them to love this wildlife and this wild land that we have in order to, because it's going to be them that are going to protect it, right? So we have two great speakers today. I'm going to introduce both, and then I'm going to let them go. First up is going to be Leon McNeil, who, if you've quail hunted in South Texas, he's probably been your guide, and he, on my one and only, took me. And he's got a great bio. If you've been at the San Antonio Academy, haven't you, for a long time?
9 years.
9 years. So he's an educator, a nonprofit leader, but he has really dedicated his work to making a difference in the lives of young people who need all the help they can get, and that is true. I've got an 11-year-old. A native son of San Antonio, Leon had a rough childhood. Maybe we'll hear about it. But he left town thanks to a football scholarship at Abilene Christian University, and he was introduced to the world of hunting and fishing. And now he and his wife run City Kids Adventures, a San Antonio nonprofit. You're not his wife.
No.
That introduces urban kids to outdoor experiences. And then let me introduce Josie Gutierrez, who is with us with Latino Outdoors. And she too has dedicated her life to sharing the love of the land with the kids. In fact, you prefer to spend your time outdoors, I hear. And hopefully, she's born and raised here in San Antonio in the Hill Country. Hopefully, we'll have her presentation ready to go when we go. Hand it over to you.
Perfect. Okay. So this should be an interesting session. Thank you guys for having me. My son, who kind of got added on at the last minute because he was in from college, and so I figured this would be a great opportunity for me to start passing the reins a little bit and give him an opportunity to speak and talk a little bit about the program, seeing as how he was raised in the program. He was born into the program. Our organization, known as City Kids Adventures, we've been at this now for 27 years. And so 5 years prior to that, he came along. And so he's has a very unique perspective about how all this stuff fits in and the power of the outdoors and Mother Nature. Like I said earlier, our organization is known as City Kids Adventures. Just a little bit about myself. I was blessed to be able to go to school at Abilene Christian University on a football scholarship, and it profoundly changed my life forever. It gave me an opportunity to see the good in humanity. It gave me the opportunity to see how that all fits in with the outdoors, because I had a group of guys my first year of college, and I never will forget this. I was in a dorm sitting around, didn't have anything in common with anybody there. Everything I grew up with was mean and very ugly, and everybody there was very nice and very friendly and very welcoming. And so that changed my perspective, and I spent the first year of my college experience pretty much isolated to my dorm. And I realized that something's wrong. It's not the way it's supposed to be. And so with that, over a period of time, had it not been for football, I think I probably would have left. But because football kind of held me there, I got an opportunity to meet some wonderful friends, and then they started taking me hunting. And I didn't know anything about hunting. I'm like, hunting, you're going to go out and kill animals? What is that about? And so when I went and I started to see the things and the camaraderie these guys had, I'm like, oh my, this is pretty neat. And it came together, and so over a period of time, I started taking a camping class and really started to understand the power of the outdoors. And then when I graduated from college, one of the things that resonated with me is, how can I give back? How can I give a kid that had the same experiences that I had, grew up in the same asphalt and concrete environment that I did, an opportunity to be able to get out? Because, I had some coaches that came along and took care of me in high school, and this is just kind of our way of saying thank you and giving them, kids an opportunity to see something different other than asphalt and concrete. And so that began the nexus of City Kids, the birth of what we do. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of let my son kind of go on and talk a little bit about kind of the program as you kind of know the founding, the philosophy of that, and just a little more detail with that. When I got my first coaching job in the inner city, I just finished playing football. I was pretty motivated about athletics and all things involved, and but the kids weren't. They didn't have any desire to do anything but non-productive behavior. Gangs, all those things you see typically in the inner city, which is what I grew up with, very familiar. And so I knew what camping did for me when I was in college, and I said, man, we've got to do something different here. And so I made a pact. I had a football team, 11 guys at the end of the season, my first year of coaching. I had 11 guys on the team. One guy broke his leg, and we couldn't play. We had to forfeit. I was like, this is crazy. We can't do this. And so that 7th grade year, at the end of that year, I told those 7th graders, you guys come and play 4 sports. Stay with me. It doesn't matter what it is. Just play 4 sports and don't quit. At the end of the school year, we'll do something. I'll take you somewhere. We're going to go somewhere. And so I had 35 start. I had 33 finish. And I thought, wow, okay, we're going to have to do something now. And so basically what I decided to come up with was to do what I did in college, which changed me, which was to go camping. And we took one parent and myself, took 33 guys down to Guadalupe River, and it was, boom, eye-opening. Those kids were like uncaged animals. They were just all over into everything. They were curious about everything. And so from that time on, we came back the next year, and then that's when my wife came along, and she found out what we were doing with the boys and said, I think I would like to be able to do that with the girls. I said, okay, let's do it together then. And we weren't dating at the time. And so at the next year, we had 76 boys and girls, and we went down to Port Aransas and camped out on the beach. And that's the beginning of 27 years later. And so I'm going to let my son now kind of go to where we're at right now. And if you want to go through the PowerPoint, but I think what would probably be better if we show a little video so you guys can have a little better idea of what we do, and then he can talk to you about it. And so hopefully they can get this all fired up, and we'll get it going here. That's actually, hold on, wrong one.
The audio's playing, but
yeah, the audio's good.
And thus we should spend our time outdoors.
Exactly. So you don't have to worry about these problems. A bird's a bird. So yeah, it's and we get that a lot, particularly with kiddies. There we go. So that's who we are in a nutshell. We're a mentoring program for inner city kids designed to get them outside, away from asphalt and concrete.
And that leads into me. I'll keep it kind of sweet. My name is Lee Charles McNeil. I'm Mr. McNeil's son. I kind of had the opposite, and I'll give a little bit of my background, but I kind of had the opposite experience. I kind of grew up around very loving things out in the nature and stuff like that, and then I kind of experienced it on a different level, I guess, maybe you can say. And I went up to college, and I'm still in college right now, and I'm up there, and I got away from the things that I did and loved, and now it's bringing me back, I guess you could say, to a sense of why I was doing the things that I did before, why these things are important, why they get you going, why you, I don't know, feel so alive when you're out in the outdoors and you can connect to something that's real. And so we came to the same conclusion, obviously. That's why I'm up here. But a little bit of City Kids. It's a mentoring program for inner city kids, and we take them out hunting, fishing, camping, and just, as you can see, everything. And just expose them to more walks of life, because I've started to see, kind of growing up and progressing through all the roles, the various things that are essential in order for you to understand you and understand what makes you you and what makes us feel connected, what makes us feel more alive. And that's what City Kids aims to do, is provide avenues for kids to do that through the outdoors. Because one of the things that I've noticed is when you're in the outdoors, you have to be present. You have to be aware, and you have to be aware of the things that are around you. And when you can have those comparisons between the outdoors and life in the city, you start to understand a lot more of what makes you you, what makes you feel like you want to inspire, what makes you feel like you want to aspire to go out and be more. And that's one of the biggest things that I feel like the kids in our program have a challenge with doing, is they don't have enough experience in life to understand what it means to aspire, to understand what it means to go out and feel alive. And that's what we try to do, is provide as many avenues as they can to go out and be something in the world. Because in a place that's very often crippling, as my dad and I didn't grow up in that place, but I understand it from a perspective of what it wasn't, I guess you could say, or what I didn't have. And because of that, you kind of start to really feel, for the kids at least, and for me, because I kind of progressed through the roles with them, and a lot of them were my closest friends. I looked up to the older kids. And now I became the older kid, and I know those kids look up to me. And it gives you a really understanding of all the roles, and that's what City Kids does as well, is it's a mentoring program. You start young and you go up into the ranks, and through the seniority you start to understand a lot of how life is. I mean, you're in a business, you start small, and then you have to work your way up, and it's the same way within City Kids. We call it seniority. The older kids are the ones who are out there chaperoning. The older kids are the ones who know what to do and when to do it, and the younger kids look up to them, because once they kind of see what it takes to be where they are, it gives them more of a desire to get there. And once you have that desire to get there, or desire to be something, that will take off. And you can hopefully compare, just like we do with City Kids, compare that to the real world. And you'll have that experience when you kind of go on and you move on with the life that you choose to live. And hopefully they have enough experience along the way to live a life that is worth something.
Yeah. And one of the things that we like to do a lot, and I'm going to ask you guys these questions, and you just kind of think about it. But if your environment never changes, what do you learn from that environment? If your environment never changes, what do you learn from that environment? And a lot of kids, right off the bat, typically say nothing. You don't learn anything. And we charge them, and we tell them all the time, you will always learn something from your environment, whether it be good, whether it be bad, but you will always learn something from your environment. The power in changing that environment, though, is now you have an opportunity to make a comparison. That's the power in it. What most people think, they say, oh, it's just my environment is the way it is. Well, that's true. But if you have something to compare to, now you can make really, really good decisions about the things you want in life. And that's the problem with a lot of inner city kids that don't have an opportunity to get outside, to get in the outdoors. They don't understand, because they don't have a comparison. So they think that that's the way things are supposed to be. You know, the thought process, we call it the government mentality. If you get the same thing all the time, you just automatically start to think that that's the way it is, and there's nothing else. And so with our program, all we simply do is we try and provide them with opportunities to be able to aspire. And once you get that little flame, that little inspiration, of hope, and they know that they can do it, the rest of it just takes care of itself. And we use the outdoors, Mother Nature, as a simple, happy medium, something that's very, very unintimidating. And most people would think, oh, inner city kids not outside, it's very intimidating. It's actually really not. It's actually just the opposite. They get intrigued because it's something foreign to them. It's not asphalt, it's not concrete, it's different. And so with that, we can teach kids a lot of different, responsibilities, a lot of different concepts, we can hold them accountable to all the things that most society says we can't do. Well, you can in the outdoors if they're given an opportunity to do that. And so that's what we do in our program. And so we've been at it now for 27 years, and we've been blessed to have some amazing sponsors within the city of San Antonio, some family folks, and it's just some fine folks. It's just helps us continue to pass along our mission, and i.e. making the world a better place. Because if we can do that and start with the kids, it'll be a better place. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open it up to.
That's 10 minutes.
Is it 10 minutes?
She showed the 10 minutes.
Oh, 5, yeah. I'm going to open up to any questions. Does anybody have any questions? Yes. We like to say we service about 150 kids a year. They're starting younger now. They can start if they have an older sibling in our program when they're in the 4th grade. And so typically, but they have to have an older sibling in the program. But typically they start in the 6th grade, and they stay with us through high school and then through college, and then they come back as college kids and act as mentors for our young kids. We don't. They choose us. And so what happens is we don't we let anybody come in. It doesn't matter. And over a period of time, because of the way the mentors program is set up, they start to understand which kids are going to make it, which kids are going to work. Because we say all the time, it's not for everybody. Because there's a tremendous amount of responsibility, because everything we do is potentially dangerous. And so you have to be willing to take instruction from an older kid and, of course, adults. So, yeah.
That's one of the biggest things, just to add on a little bit of that accountability thing. It's about the group, and he says they choose us. They also don't choose us. Yeah. Yes. And that's what you understand that around being with people, I guess you could say.
Yes, ma'am. Oh. We go everywhere. We go to Black Gap. We're going to Alaska this summer. We go to New York. We take city tours. We went to Niagara Falls last summer.
Louisiana,
we go to Louisiana, fishing the bayous. We go to Everglades. We've gone to Grand Canyon, Glacier National Park, Yellowstone, all the places that they don't typically visit. And here's the philosophy behind that. Because when they get to college, the reason why a lot of inner city kids don't make it in college, it's not that they're academically not strong enough to make it. It's socially they don't have the same experiences. So when they get in an environment with people that are sharing these experiences, they don't have a clue and they feel isolated. They feel like they don't belong. So they come back to what they're familiar with, which is their neighborhoods. And what we try and do is we try and give them those experiences. And they can start traveling with us when they're going into high school, and we call it the summer tours, and they'll have 4 years to travel, and every 5 years a trip comes back around. And so they'll have a chance to go all over the country and learn about it. So when they get to college, hey, you're sitting down, we're talking about Yellowstone, been there, done that. We're talking about Alaska, we've been there, done that. So, yes.
Where are you going primarily based on?
San Antonio. San Antonio. Most all our kids come from San Antonio. We do have a kid that's out in Dallas area, but most of them come from San Antonio, but they're all over the city, not one particular district. KIP, IDEA, SASD, North Side, East Central. They come from all over. Yeah. Absolutely. And we have an Instagram and a website, All City Kids Adventures. And if you follow us on Instagram, that's a good way to keep up with us, because every weekend we do something, from starting the last weekend in February to the second weekend in November. Every weekend there's somebody going something. We post our stories, that technology stuff, so the parents can follow along, because they can't participate, but that's how they keep an idea what their kids are doing, and hopefully are motivated about it. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
I just want to say that it's a wonderful presentation. I really appreciate all the information.
Well, thank you.
And I'm really excited to spread the word, because I think that's a really wonderful opportunity.
Well, thank you.
Of course, thank you. What are some of the challenges that y'all face right now?
Can't speak on that one. I feel like one of the biggest challenges is, what's the word I'm looking for?
Society?
No, society, yeah, but consistency. That's one of the biggest things. That's what I was looking for, is consistency, keeping the kids to stay in it. Because, I mean, kids are kids, and I was that same kid. And you go ups and downs. You get ups and downs, especially going from middle school to high school. And that challenge to try to keep them interested, to keep them in the thing of, I mean, one, we do so much, so the interest level is a little bit easy, but they get distracted sometimes, because once you go to high school, their world opens up again. And it's just a constant evolution of here, 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 here. And every time that you go up, it broadens your perspective and you want to do new things. And we try to keep them here in the program, because this is something that, I mean, it's life. Obviously, you go and you grow and things like that. But once you can stay consistent with something, it teaches you discipline. It teaches you how to get to. And that's when you really start to understand and contribution and what it does for you and the people around you, mostly, because that's what it's all about for us as the group.
And society, like I was saying a minute ago, society makes that incredibly difficult nowadays, because they can pick up this little device right here and create whatever world they want to create. And sometimes this world is way better than that world, which is unfortunate. And that's what we try and break. We don't allow kids to have these cell phones with us when we're on our outings. They turn them in because it's a cycle and it's a problem. But, yeah, he's right. Yes, ma'am.
Do you find that the families of these kids, are they supportive of what y'all are teaching them, or are they sometimes a detriment?
There have been instances where the parents are a problem, but for the most part, law averages says that most of our parents, once the kids are involved and they get involved and see what they're doing and see how their kids changing, they're all in. But there are some parents that initially they're apprehensive just because a kid has so much draw to what we do, and they're correcting their parents now, because a lot of the ideas that we have, you know, the thought processes, their parents don't like to be called out on that. And so it creates a little bit of tension sometimes, but they start to understand that we're just helping your child hopefully become a better individual. It all works together. Yeah. But we don't have very much parental involvement, and that's specifically by design, because we're trying to give them a certain type of experience that they can take with them. We know what they're getting at home, and so we know what their environment is giving them, but we're trying to give them something different. Yes, sir.
Given the increase in people wanting to be outdoors because of the pandemic, how has that affected y'all's program and interest levels?
It's for us, it's always the same. In fact, when the pandemic came along, we did have a little bit of a, I wouldn't say a bump so much so, because ours is pretty consistent with the fact that the parents know that when they're with us, we do certain things. And so it wasn't even an issue. What we did find that what affected us is when a child got, you know, corona or whatever, then they had to stay away, and that's what hurt them more than anything. But other than that, it's been pretty consistent. And we've seen a little bit more of an increase, uptick with people that want to get involved. But again, it's not, you know, we don't like to refer to ourselves as a one and done. You know, we want to create lifelong lovers of the outdoors, because they're going to be the ones that are going to change the world. Yeah.
And to add on to that a little bit, I feel like one of the other things is society. Like, our interest level didn't really change within the kids, but the society interest level changed, because you were forced to be removed from that. You were forced to be removed from the group. You were forced to be removed from everything that we were doing before. So it kind of gave a stark comparison between the 2 points of, all right, this is what we were doing, and this is what kind of, not you should be doing, because that's arbitrary, but what you also could be doing. And that was one of the biggest changes, I feel like, was the interest of everywhere else, because of the comparison that COVID gave.
And then if we have additional questions?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're going to cut it off right now, and I just saw that. Thank you guys very much for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
So hi, I'm Josie Gutierrez, and I'm from Latino Outdoors, and I'm the program coordinator for the chapter here in San Antonio. Currently, I think there are about 26 active chapters throughout the United States. When I started the chapter here in Texas, it was in 2015, and Latino Outdoors started about 2013 as a blog, and it kind of worked its way into an organization, a nonprofit. And so that started about 2014, and I came on 2015, and I've been here since. And so I don't work with Latino Outdoors. I'm just a volunteer. So it's a volunteer-driven organization. So it's really neat to have seen the growth in the last couple of years. But I always tell my friends, this is my side hustle. I love being outside. So it offers me great opportunities to go outside, and that's my way to do it. So this is, and actually what I did for me, my outdoor adventure started actually in the park. Started for me when I was about 20, and that was like back, I don't want to age me, but it was like back in the 80s, and I went to Gardner State Park. Now, I had never been to a park other than maybe Brack here. I'm born and raised here in San Antonio. So for me, I had a friend of mine who said, I go to Gardner State Park. There's this park. She always talked about it, and she said, let me take you one day. And I said, sure. We left work, got there at night. I didn't even know we needed a tent. I don't even think we slept in a tent. I think we slept in the car that night. We were young, it didn't matter. And so, but all I remember is waking up that morning, and she took me to the river. And then I was like, where am I? Like seeing that clear river, those beautiful cypress trees, the hills. People were so sweet, and I'm waving, and I'm just like, where am I? Who are these people? Like, what is this space? It's beautiful. It instantly got to me. Like, it was, that's why I still take people outdoors, so I can get that same feeling again through them. But I love it. It was something that I never forgot. And she passed away 5 years later, but I always thank her every time I go back to Gardner State Park. We go back every year. And I don't know how soon it would have been before I discovered a park, but even if it was in my 20s, I still discovered it. For me, my goal is for my children and for other kids is to get them to have this experience a lot sooner. I feel like it should have happened a lot sooner, and it wasn't my mom's or dad's fault. For them, my dad was a migrant worker, so he 9 months out of the year he was out in Michigan, and my mom was the oldest of 13. So they grew up on the west side, and for me, the outdoors was my playground. That to me, afuera meant that was my outdoors. I never thought that I needed a park like Big Bend or Garner or any of the other wonderful parks that are out there. For me, playing with my cousins outside, learning how to cheerleader, roller skate, catching the chickens that my grandfather had, playing in my grandma's garden, that was the outdoors. And for me, a garden represented anything that you could eat, anything that you could use for medicinal purposes. So it's funny now, I hear people talking about flowers, and I was like, but what does it do? Because for me, I'm like, my grandma had the roses so that she could put them in this jar, and then she would use it to rinse her hair. The aloe vera plant, that was for like if I got cut. So, and then, if we were hungry, we just went and pulled some tomatoes from the back or something from the peach tree. So it's funny because every time I go camping, I look for stuff to eat. I'm always like, well, what can I eat? What can I try? So for me, that's when I discovered the parks, and I knew I needed that in my life. My dad thought taking me to Disneyland was my treat, and so every year he would take me to Disneyland. That was a park, right? But it wasn't. It was a wonderful park, gave me great memories. But the parks that I need now in my life are outdoor areas, any parks, because I know growing up, I didn't grow up with social media. I know how important it is to not have that. And I know how important those connections are that you make with your family, your friends, the next door neighbors. Everybody knows each other. You kind of take care of your kids. We're running around having a great time, and that there's something to be said about that time, and for me, recreating it is for me, and stopping the craziness that life can be here in town is to get out to these parks, and then you reignite those connections with your family. And for me, I don't take just kids only, because I tell them I don't babysit, because I have my granddaughter who usually goes with me, and she's been going with me. Her first camping experience was 4 with us at Gardner State Park. So, and I take my niece. So for me, I love the family interaction. So for me, I encourage families to come out. We've had grandparents come out that have experienced parks for the first time as well in their 70s, and it's been amazing. And to be able to provide them kayaking experiences, just anything that we can get, fishing, birding, it's been amazing. And there's always something I'm learning. I just saw my first painted bunting, I think is what it's called, last week or this weekend. So I was super excited. I'm always like looking for new stuff, and but whatever gets us outdoors, right? For me and for Latino Outdoors. So they've given me a voice and a platform to kind of, it's a unique Latinx-led organization, work to create a national community of leaders in conservation and outdoor education. And as part of this work, we are focused on expanding and amplifying the Latin experience in the outdoors, providing greater leadership, mentorship, and professional opportunities while serving as a platform for sharing cultural connections and narratives that are often overlooked by the traditional outdoor movement. It's a space for the community to be present, share our voices, and showcase how conservation roots have been ingrained in La Cultura Latina for generations. And the previous picture that you had seen, that was us at Gardner State Park. Last year, we took 13 families. I had a grant for the first time for just San Antonio, and I decided that we were going to take 13 families camping, give them 2 park experiences, and I was going to give them the gear. So I was going to make sure that by the end of these park experiences, they didn't just have that, but they had the gear to continue that, and we added a Texas Park Pass with that as well. So that way they could feel comfortable. So So this is some of our families that went out with us in some of these images. And that's one of our leaders. And then the need, of course, why it started was, of course, there was a need. The founder, Jose Gonzalez, realized a couple of years ago, back in 2013, that he wasn't seeing himself out in the outdoors, and so wasn't seeing enough color. So he thought, well, why? What's going on? So, which is why Latino Outdoors started. He felt that there was a need for something to happen, and the answer demonstrated an unmet need, motivating Latino Outdoor founder Jose Gonzalez to create Latino Outdoors in 2013 as an online blog and networking platform for members of Latino communities interested in the outdoors. So, and then that's actually our founder, the one in the black jacket over here, second to the right, from the right. That's Jose Gonzalez, the founder of Latino Outdoors. That was another excursion. He's come down a couple of times, and we've taken him to explore our parks here in Texas. And that was at Colorado Bend. And that's actually, the rest of them are all leaders and volunteers with Latino Outdoors in San Antonio. And what is the root cause of the problem we are trying to resolve? How do we set early and intermediate steps for a long-term goal? What is the pathway to success? What is success? Those were the things that he was asking when he started Latino Outdoors. And these are just some of the things that we've done. I started off doing at least an activity once a month. Back in 2015 when I started, we didn't have monthly money to spend. It was basically Latino Outdoors got a grant, and they would kind of filter it down and say, hey, Josie, we have so much to spend this month. So that's what I would do. So when that money came down, I got the call, I would put something together. So we've done painting. That's actually my family. Those are my 2 girls, my mom in the middle, and my granddaughter. And that was at a yoga event that we sponsored. And this is us, I think, at Friedrich Park, again, with just some people that came out, some of our community, and us tabling up there. Because we'll do anything that gets us out there. And the theory of change, pretty much is what I had up here. It's pretty much how are we doing this? How are we weaving the aspects of culture, community, wellness, and connection into the outdoors? And for me, of course, it just started with my family. So for me, as I said, I have a huge family. My mom's one of 13, my dad one of 7. Nobody in my family has ever been camping, so other than me. So I thought that's where I'm going to start, and the people that I work with, and that's how I connected my community to the outdoors. And it literally just kept on going, and we're on Facebook. We have a Latino Outdoors San Antonio Austin, and on there is where we share everything that we have going on. And people to people is how we do that, connecting people to each other in the outdoors and our community. And again, these are just some more experiences of some of the outings that we've had, some camping experiences. And we also love to bring along people to help guide hikes for us as well. Because for us, it's important not just to get outside, but to also understand why we're outside and to get to learn about the land. It's educational as well. And so why are we there, and what can we learn from this? So it's not just, oh, let's go outside. No, there's so much more to that. And so when we can bring people along, guides, people that understand that park and can bring something to us as well, I love sharing that with them. So. And again, this is just us again at parks. And this is, again, connecting the people to the place so that they can understand and feel that. And I didn't realize how many pictures I have. Okay, people to process, connecting people to the process of going outdoors safely and enjoyably, and having them get that self-empowerment. Because I know with my granddaughter, I've definitely seen it. When she first went out at 4, was so scared of the outdoors, and now I'm like, get back over here, where are you going? But having her feel that comfortable in these spaces and knowing what to do and being able to tell the kids, talk to them about leave no trace, or just don't forget to dust it, or don't, you hear these conversations happening, and it's just so, it's amazing. So. Yeah, that's just us again, camping out with first-time families. And what else do I have up here? People to policy, connecting people to the actions and issues is something that we also do on with advocacy. We also have that on Latino Outdoors organization page, the main one online. So you can go to our main website and you can get, there's so much going on. Even I sometimes have to remind myself to look on there because I can miss something. But there's also a lot of ways that we can connect people to so many other things, and that's through them. Because again, our bandwidth is small, and so it's really hard for me as a volunteer to do as much as I like. So anything that I feel like, even if I'm connecting with 10 people or 20 people, for me it's a lot, because these are a lot of first-time families and first-time hikers that we've never taken hiking or kayaking or anything like that. So next. And so also one of the other things I love is meeting great people. So some of you might, this is from Gardopia, Stephen, and then he's from here from San Antonio. He has a wonderful organization, and that is Alex from Black Outside. So not only do we love going outside, we also love sharing what other people are doing in other great organizations, just like Leon. So I'm glad I got to meet him today, because for us, we can't be outside all the time and telling you, creating these events or activities, but at least we can share with the wonderful people that are also doing great work out there. So, and that is actually the first camp out we ever did back in 2015. And that was at Garner State Park, because I knew it had to be that park for me to be able to give back. And we took 20 families camping, and so those are some of our little kids after they took their little pledge. So, and again, some more pictures. And that's again all first-time families. And him, that's actually my cousin's little boy. The great thing about him is that when we first went camping at Garner State Park, we took. I had 2 nieces, and they were probably like 6 and 5 at the time. Well, now one of them has a son. So not only were we able to provide that experience for her, we're not also providing his park experience. And that's not even his first park experience with us, but we did that with him. And this was just last, I think, September, October at Pedernales. But it was cute because I didn't know he took that picture. He went and got my hat and my walking stick, and she sent me that picture later. So it was just neat to see that continued love for the parks. And yes, I think that's it. So, any questions? Any questions, or if Leon wants to come back up? And pretty much, yeah. And that's how we've kind of kept it. We don't really need to go too far. We go off of Facebook and Instagram, and we'll get the families, which is crazy. Even when I did the 13 families that we were looking for, I grew up on the west side, and I knew I never heard about parks. I didn't even know about the missions. We kind of stuck around our area. One of the things that for me was important when we did the 13 families, that I knew I had to get back to the west side. So for me, I actually picked 13 families from the west side. All I had them do was just write in, let us know what this would mean to them and their families. And then I made sure that I went I went to the apartment complex that I actually grew up in. And I let them, I just kind of walked in. I was like, hey, my name is Josie. I'm here with, I let her know who I was. And I told her how much this, I remember that just playing outside was for me at the apartment complex, but I wanted to be able to give back to some of the families there if possible. So I said, if you have any names, please give them my card, let them know. So we were able to get one family with 2 daughters out there with us. So, yeah. And now it's just, it's anybody in San Antonio, but sometimes we're specific just because we're trying to, for me, it meant a lot. So. Yes. Totally. Yes. Yes, I'm actually on the Urban Council for Texas Parks and Wildlife, and so is Alex from Black Outside, which has been nice because now we have a voice, and so it's been really nice to have that opportunity. But I feel like it's also Yeah, that's it. I think when you lead with the right intention, we're going in there to learn. We're going in there to, I want these families to feel what I felt when I first went. And I know that it's not that, like Leon said, it's that first experience and they get, and nature does its own thing, right? It pulls you in. You don't even have to do anything. You just get them there. Then the rest is up for them to discover where they want to go. For me, it's just kind of, I can only do so much. So for me, I'm like, let me provide this basic park experience, but it's not really basic because it's amazing. But from there, they can figure out, do I want more of this? Do I want more of that? Do I want to go birding, fishing? What is it that I love? What is it that's calling me more? But just getting them to the trailhead and then letting them make that decision. But I think with the right intentions, when we let the organizations or anybody that we're working with know what we're trying to do, honestly, in San Antonio, or at least in Texas, I've had no issues. So I've been very, very fortunate. Oh, yes.
I'm curious about fundraising for both of the groups.
Mhm.
Specifically talk about how you raise funds in order to support your mission.
For me, it's since it's Latino Outdoors, the main organization, they fundraise for us, and then that's how we get a monthly stipend that we can use for our outings. But that wasn't the case at the very beginning. When I first started in 2015, like I said, it was kind of like, as they started to grow, they would get a grant and kind of like, hey, we have this much, but back then we only had like 5 or 6 chapters that were slowly growing and figuring things out. Now, we actually got somebody last year who just will specifically work with each chapter now to fundraise or to get grants for our state or for our city. And so for me, I was actually able to get a $10,000 grant last year from National Recreation Foundation, and it'll be for 3 years. And then I think Texas Hill Country also gave us another couple of thousand this year. So this is the most San Antonio has had, but also it's hard because this is not our job. So we can't ask for too much either because we can only do so much because of our bandwidth. So yeah, so making the most of those meaningful experiences. And so for me, I feel like camping really gives you a little bit of everything. So that's kind of been my main focus, and that's where I've shifted to.
And in our case, we're blessed. We started out with Texas Parks and Wildlife, and we applied that was our first grant. It was a matching grant, and we've been partners with them now since we started. And so we were blessed to be able to also have a member of the board on the Texas Parks and Wildlife as one of our sponsors. And so they knew what we were doing in terms of our mission. And so every year when we needed equipment or needed things to be replaced, we apply for the grant. And so about every 5 years we replace equipment, and that's how. And now we've been at it for so long. We have corporate sponsors, we have families, we have foundations, because people know our mission and they understand our mission. And it's, even though it's a lot about the outdoors, it's really about developing young people and giving them an opportunity to be able to see that there are more things in life than you've seen thus so far. And so our funding and our support for what our mission is huge. It's what's gotten us where we are today. And with that, we're able to provide. That's why we do so much, is because our philosophy is that you can take a kid hunting one time and he's going to have a good time, but you can take a kid hunting 3 or 4 times and he's going to be a lover. Just all there is to it. He's going to love it. And with that, you're starting to think about how you're trying to change a culture, how you're trying to change a community. It takes a very, very long-term commitment. And with that long-term commitment, it requires, certain things that you have to be able to do. And so we've made that commitment, and hopefully my son is 27 years later, and we'll continue to do that. That's how you change a community for us. So, yeah.
And I think one of the other things, too, that I forgot to mention is whenever we do take our families camping, I'm very big on bringing our culture with us. So I tell them, if this is something that you would normally, listen to out in the outdoors, why can't you listen to it out here? If this is something that you would cook at your house, you can cook it out here. We're going to have a stove, So making them feel comfortable. And one of the things I love to do is I always get my Mexican blanket as my picnic table and cover, and I love it. I have them in all colors. So I made sure that before I gave everybody their tents and their backpacks and everything to continue this journey, I gave them the little blanket, because it's like, always remember that that's who you are. Bring yourself out into the outdoors and your culture and continue that journey. So, yes. Mm-hmm.
So what are the average size of families that come out? Are they usually 3 families, 5?
I'd say probably like 3 to 5 is probably pretty good. But most of them will always want to bring another family along. or a cousin. It's very common, like, but I have a cousin or I have an aunt and they have kids, so they want to try to bring like two families as one. So, but yeah, I'd say 3 to 5 is pretty average. hmm Yeah, we provide the sites for them for the whole family. And we've been working with Texas Outdoor Families, which is part of Texas Parks and Wildlife, and they provide all the gear for us, that's half the battle right there for us. So initially, to kind of get these families out, it's really great to have that gear. They provide the spots. So for me, I also love not grouping everybody. I kind of like, we have our s'mores at night. We have our times when we get together. But for me, it's super important for them to continue these moments individually as families. So that's why having their own space at the campground. I'm like, no, go be with your family. If you don't have to do this, you don't want to, just be with them. Be in this space. That's all that matters. And then from there, they can kind of, do whatever else they want to do from there. So. Yes. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, me too. Mhm. Yeah. That we're here.
Yeah.
For me, I'm also a community health worker, and I still have a huge family network. My dad actually lives in the house that my grandmother grew up in, which is great because I get to go pick fruits and stuff that's still there. But he lives off of San Bernardo, which is the west side. They grew up more on Edgewood. I was more Guadalupe and Cheyenne Apartments is actually where I grew up. So. But yes, I'm actually a community health worker, which is where we're starting with. Sorry, but I'm also in the community. So for me, I'm also able to. I wear 2 hats that are very similar. I work in communities to kind of go in there and see what it is, how I can make it. What is it that they need help with? Whether it's start a garden, whether it's get some new stuff for the school that the kids might use, anything that we can get out there, health, nutrition. So for me, using that voice as well, I feel like I'm always carrying both hats with me because they're very similar. So sometimes they'll come in asking me for something for Latino Outdoors, and I'm like, actually, yeah, I got something with the city, or they'll ask me with the city, but I'm also like, here's also my Latino Outdoor card. So wherever I feel that there might be that opening that they might need, I'll give them both of my cards. So, but yeah, for me, it's just spreading the word. Like, you might have heard something, and then all of a sudden you'll let another family know, and then it just kind of grows from there. For us, it's been natural.
Yes, yes, and for us, the same kind. We do some public speaking events at schools and stuff like that, present our program, and then they're charged to go home and tell their parents to get back in contact with us if they're interested in participating. A lot of what we do, because we've been doing it for so long, is word of mouth. And so ultimately, it's funny that you say the West Side. I started my teaching career at Cooper Middle School on the West Side. And so that's where I was for 20 years and then moved over to Euphoria. And so we're very familiar with that community, and that's kind of how we got started. But once the kids find out about what we do, it just kind of spreads. And, that's kind of how we go about recruiting, because we don't want to have a situation where we have more kids than we can give a quality experience to, because then you start to be just like any other program, and that's not what we want to do. We want to make sure that the kids can go on and change the world, and they do that by understanding the experiences that they have and taking them with them to go as they become older. And so, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I definitely love that, because like he says, there's times when I realize, I think our favorite camping experiences are when we have 8, 7 families, because I feel like we can give them so much more. So we've definitely scaled down, and we've split our camping. As opposed to having 20 families, we're kind of bringing it down to 10 and 10 or 8 and 8, just because we want to make sure that they get all of us. Like for me, I'm there every morning. I'll wake up, I go around the whole thing just to say, how was your morning? How was your night? I want to make sure they get the most out of everything, because I know we only have them there also there for a short time. So for me, it's super important to reach, like he does, less amount, but it really matters.
Yeah. And then we'll charge, we'll have a big camp at the end, and Memorial Day camp. there'll be probably 60 kids there, and we charge them to bring a friend. You know, bring somebody that you like, to think that you know what we are looking for, and they want to be a part of the program. And then usually out of that, you know, we'll have probably 10 new kids that'll pick up, or 5 new kids that'll pick up. And then those kids will stay, because again, our program, you start in 6th grade, and you stay with us. I mean, you year after year after year after year, they know, and we watch those kids grow up, and so we can kind of understand and curtail their experiences, so that way they're going to be productive members of our society. That's what we want. Yeah. You guys are great. Great questions.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.